Hello everyone, hello and welcome to the hot seat. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Marco Minoli and I am a director of publishing at Slitherine. We have been doing strategy games for 25 years, it's a long time. And the reality is that back when we started, you could see articles about strategy games basically all over the place. And gone are the days when PC Gamer would run pieces after piece about an obscure 4X game releasing in 9 months' time. Nowadays, really very few people are discussing and talking about strategy games, except for a few courageous content creators. So, why is that happening? And I'm thinking about it. It's pretty easy to explain. I'm going to try and explain to you. The overall video games market nowadays accounts for about $187 billion in turnover. That's a lot of money. It's huge, considering how far we went from when we started. But it's also considered as a wider market. 50% of that number is mobile games, for instance. If you look at the actual number of what the PC premium games market is about $15 billion. It's still a lot of money and still growing and still strong, but it's not even 10% of the overall value of the video games market. It's tiny. Strategy games of that big $15 billion revenue, strategy games are only scratching the surface. It's only about 13.97% of that number. That means that strategy games, it's that little pinky area in the pie there. It's not a lot. And if you even look further within that, strategy games are accounted for, as I said, 13.97%, but the subgenres populating the strategy gaming segment are even wider. You've got MOBAs, you've got puzzle games, you've got city builders, colony sims. A lot of these games are in the wider strategy gaming audience, and we have to take a very, very careful view at that, and understanding that it's a very tiny bit of the market, of the video games market. So what we are willing to do here, and if you look at even closer here, RTSs, for instance, which is the biggest part of the strategy games market, is only about I think 15% of that number. 4X games are about 88.45%, and turn-based strategy games, which is where we started in our venture in making video games, is only 4% of the overall. So being a niche market, being a sort of a nice little hobby, I would say, it's a big market but still niche. So we wanted to create a space where we can discuss strategy games with a very open mind, and which means that we will discuss in this show strategy games coming from everyone, not only our games, everyone's games. We will be doing it with a very open mind and with open arms, inviting people from all over the industry, talk about their games, their mission, their ideas, and why not, probably also trying to sell you their games in a way that it's expanding the market and making the market bigger, because if the market gets bigger, we all benefit from it. So without further ado, let's see what we have today, and this is called the hot seat. Here we are. So let's start how the show will be flowing. We have a little bit of an introduction about industry news and commenting on what's happening in the industry. Then we'll have interviews with the guests that you have seen who are the guests this time. Every time we'll have a different set of guests talk about their their lives in the industry. And we also have a little bit of an area about tabletop as well, considering the wider strategy gaming market. And we'll also have a little bit of a corner of advice for what to play in the month, and discovering existing big games, but also niche, smaller indie games that we think are worth mentioning. All of this in a relaxed atmosphere, so don't worry about commenting, giving your opinions and things, and we'll be reading and hopefully giving you some answers as well in the meantime. So first thing first, we wanted to discuss one subject that was first mentioned I think 2 or 3 years ago. An article came out on PC Gamer. In that case, very relevant from Fraser Brown. Our friend Fraser Brown said, are RTS games going to come back? And the start of this year showed us that it's indeed the case. They're never gone away, to be honest, but it was interesting to see that the best-selling strategy games at the start of this year were RTSs. Tempest Rising was the first one releasing, very successful, praised by both the critics and the players. It's been doing very, very well. Our friends at 3D Realms, Slipgate, have done an incredible job at crafting a game experience that was close to the pillar games of when we started playing games back in the days, but also making a very modern experience. So this was the first one in the year. Of course, Broken Arrow released just over a month ago. Again, very sort of leveraging on existing gameplay mechanics, but modernizing it and making it an experience that crosses the new generation of players as well. But it's not only these games. Stronghold Definitive Edition released very recently, did very, very, very well. A couple of days ago, we had the release of The King is Watching, a great game by Tiny Build, which personally love the style. Very, very slick execution of a core gameplay experience. It's interesting to see that the RTSs are just going back to the roots to recreate experiences that we're familiar with, and still manage to create experiences that sell it to players that are new and an audience that's fresh as well. We as a company, as an example, we are very much rooted into turn-based strategy games. If you look at what we have been having as successful releases over the last 3, 4, 5 years, you can see Starship Troopers, Terminator, Broken Arrow, ICBM Escalation, all RTSs. And that is a good sign of how RTSs are healthy. And you've seen it in the initial numbers, how the genre is really the healthier of all in the strategy gaming segment. Alrighty, so who plays strategy games on mobile? I think it's an interesting topic here, and I'd like to see you commenting on this, because weirdly enough, looking at the research and the latest numbers in 2023 and 2024, the most played genre on mobile is strategy games. You might not think they are strategy games as you are used to play them, but games like Clash of Clans and similar are all very big strategy games. They're simplified, they're made for mobile experience, but they are recognized and featured as strategy games. One of the cool things about our job especially in marketing and publishing is, well, look at how Facebook or Google will cluster your audience, and when we do advertising campaigns, for instance, we will be catering for that audience. Strategy games, for us, we compete against these games. So in terms of advertising, it's the same audience. In terms of course, taste, it's a different audience, but it's very interesting to see that there is an opportunity there for anyone to attract an audience that's kind of starting to get used to these types of games and maybe bringing them over to more complex experiences. To celebrate that, we have a couple of interesting releases. First of all, Warcraft 2 releasing, I think in a couple of days, or next week on iOS and Android. Great game, finally coming to mobile. This is one of our favorite, and I really can't wait to see how it goes, because if one thing can go one way, so coming from mobile to PC and maybe bringing some of the audience to our platforms, I think that the same can happen on the opposite. So people coming from a PC and playing on mobile and having cross-pollination between the two platforms. The other one is the wonderful VL or Soul Fantasy Warfare. Great game. I think half the people we have in the office play it daily. It's a great, nice experience. Perfectly fitting for mobile. This is coming out. This has just come out on iOS. So if you haven't, just go out and play it. It's a really, really good game. I think you should. You'll really love it if you like the stuff we like. On new releases, this is something I'd like to involve you. Love to see what you think about. But one of the things is, what is coming up this year, and of course there's a lot coming up. We have a lot of games. This year is going to be a record year for Steam for number of releases for sure. We're already about over 10,000, or I think over 11,000 released games this year on Steam. Last year was about 19,000. So very, very likely this year we're going to go over 20,000 releases. There's a lot of stuff coming out. Our favorite ones definitely going to be Heroes of Might and Magic Golden Era by Ubisoft and our friends at Hooded Horse. This game is, of course, probably the most wishlisted strategy game, or like hardcore strategy game out there. Lots of expectations for this game, of course, and I'm very interested to see how Ubisoft and Hooded Horse are going to work together on the release of this game. The other one is another Hooded Horse game that we are very much anticipating, which is Endless Legend 2. The game is releasing, just been postponed actually, to the 22nd of September in early access. Looking forward to that. It's going to be an interesting one because big production, Amplitude, the studio behind it, has a lot of experience in, first working as an independent studio, then working with Sega, now working again as an independent studio. I'm really looking forward to see how the guys there execute this new game and make it happen in a market where 4X games desperately need some innovation, and they are very, very good at that. And going back to Ubisoft, we have the release of Pax Romana, Anno, the new Anno game. Again, broad strategy, I guess, but this is one of the most anticipated releases of this year for our genre. Again, seeing how the guys at Ubisoft are going to manage this big release is going to be interesting, because we know that partnering with Hooded Horse for Heroes might be that they want to have some expert hands in helping them out, launching these games. So Anno is a huge franchise, and I hope they'll deliver on it. What's your most anticipated game this year? I've seen a Falling Frontier, again another Hooded Horse game. That's definitely another one that is it releasing this year, by the way? Who knows? I don't know. That's an interesting one. Curious to see. Menace, another one that we are absolutely Mancus. I think Menace is one of the games that are maybe flying under a lot of radars, but it's definitely going to be one that we anticipate. So keep them coming, and we'll mention them as we go. And we've got a good news section as well. Nothing is bad news, I guess, but I get the good news section is the idea of giving some insight on what is happening out there, but also giving a nice positive spin on. There's a new Sudden Strike game releasing. It's been announced, and the beta recruitment is started. The guys at Calypso and Kite Games are back on developing a sequel to Sudden Strike. The 4 was good, and I really hope this one follows in the same footsteps and it does even better. We desperately need good World War II RTSs. So that was one, and of course in the next, I think, couple of days, Civilization 6 Definitive Edition is still free on Epic, so go and grab it. I guess it's a good opportunity to make the base game and wait for the DLCs to come out. So if you're a fan of this, and if you're not, just go and grab it, because it's a huge opportunity for such a new game as well. So let's take full advantage of it. So I'll have a quick break and then back with my first guest. Well, we're open to inviting anyone from any company, but of course
You'll take anyone.
Our first guest
I feel so special.
Our first guest has to be our marvelous CEO, Iain McNeil. Iain, welcome.
Thank you, Marco. I brought the fanboys.
Yeah, you brought fanboys. Iain, you've been working. Of course, you started Slitherine, so 25 years. You started as an indie developer, and you've been now in charge of the company for 25 years. And I guess that. What's the difference between being in charge of a four guys development team and a much bigger company now?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different, obviously. So back then, there wasn't really anything to be in charge of. So I was a designer, we had a programmer, artist. The three of us were making a game, and it took us about 2 years to do it. So it was much more about actually being close to development, making design decisions, development decisions, all those kind of things. And over the years, that's transitioned into, as the team got bigger, there's more distance between you and the games. So the kind of decisions you're making are in some ways more impactful, but in other ways, you're more distanced. You can't take that fine control. You're kind of exerting control through people. So it can be frustrating at times. So if you have an idea of what you want to happen, because I used to be a designer, used to be so close to the game, I had really clear ideas of what I wanted. And when you're no longer that designer, you have to try and get those views across to people, but also have to remember it's now their game, their vision. So you're giving input and feedback. You're no longer in direct control of that kind of thing.
And it's interesting because during your career, you're still very young, but you're long career. You weren't always in charge, right? So at some point, you were an executive producer, or external producer.
Yes,
producer. And that was on big games like Deus Ex, for instance. So, but
yeah, that was back before Slitherine. So when I was at IDOS, I was an external producer. So I started out at a company called Intelligent Games, where I was developing, but I was a fairly junior member of the team to start with, and then worked my way up through that, and then joined IDOS as an external producer because it sounded very exotic and interesting. And that's where I first found that distance. I was no longer in the team. I was a representative of the publisher working with the game development team, and they had their own ideas and their own views. And I came from, I wasn't ready for that yet, so I was giving input as if I was the internal producer running the game, or the designer. And that led to me working with Pyro, I think, for a week before they asked for me to be removed. So yeah, on Praetorians, I think I lasted a week on that, giving them lots of feedback and ideas, and thinking I was being very helpful, and them asking for me to be removed because they didn't want to hear all of my ideas.
So you made a lot of enemies then.
It's all right, they don't exist anymore.
All right, okay. Well, I guess that was was a strategy game. So you had more to say, or was it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm a gamer, but I'm really a strategy gamer. So I don't have experience and really views and ideas on other genres to the same level. And so most of what I was doing at IDOS was things like Deus Ex, so very different kinds of games. It's like kind of, you've got characters you're controlling and it's more actiony, urban chaos.
Great game, by the way.
And also, when you're working as an external producer, a lot of what you're doing is logistics and management. So you're doing organizing beta tests, you're organizing localization. The development team don't really want your input that much on ideas about the game, and so I found that quite frustrating, and so that's why I only lasted a year at IDOS and then left and started Slitherine, actually with one of the developers we were working with at the time.
You did start with strategy though, so sort of a natural evolution of your passion at Intelligent Games. What was it like? You started, because it's your passion, but you're very junior in the team, so what kind of input did you sort of contribute there? Back
at the start, when I joined Intelligent Games, I was a tester, so I was playing the games, giving feedback, and it was actually through Phil, who's now technical director here. He was the lead programmer on, I think, technical director at some point at Intelligent Games, and I got the job through him, because it never occurred to me, I played games, but it never occurred to me that someone actually has a job making the games. If it had, I'd have probably studied different things at university. So I accidentally got into it. And yeah, so you're starting off with very little control. I don't know anything about the industry. I'm just telling people what I think. I think Ticonderoga was my very first game, and then on to some others like Simile or...
Yeah, that's interesting because you studied environmental science, right?
And I did.
And then you ended up doing a Simile game.
Well, that's true, yeah. That's the closest connection to using anything from my degree I've done since I left university. But yeah, what I studied was nothing really to do with the job, and it's everything to do with my job was to do with my hobby. So I've been wargaming since I was 6. So my dad took me first time to the Wargames Club when I was 6, and they wouldn't let me touch the soldiers, so this was tabletop wargames. So the only thing I was allowed to touch was dice back then. And then after, I don't know when, it must a couple of years later, they must have let me start touching the figures. And then at 11, I was club champion, so that annoyed them.
You keep annoying people, Iain.
Yes, I have a habit of doing that. That's why you don't let me talk to people.
At Intelligent Games, people don't remember, but you were working on stuff like Red Alert, Dune 2000. Then you went on to IDOS, work on Deus Ex and so on. And it's all like games that we all remember, and they are old and they're part of the legacy, right? And it's almost become iconic.
It doesn't feel like that long ago, but yeah, I still remember. Red Alert mission discs. I remember the editor we used to build the maps on. So we were building lots of multiplayer maps for Westwood Studios for Red Alert, the first game, and then on to June 2000. Doing a lot of, we did the entire project for that one, so that was entire from scratch, and that was a hard project. Working with Westwood, they had very firm ideas of how a real-time strategy game should work, and they were doing what I did to Pyro, and we had massive fights with them about balancing, and one day we came into the office and they just changed all the data files and rebalanced everything. So the game played completely differently, and they said you've got to use the data files that we've provided, and so
you didn't get them removed though.
No, they were paying us lots of money, so I couldn't.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you still think that the industry is able to deliver iconic games like these ones? These were pioneering years, right? So
it's really hard to judge because personally, I don't feel like there've been any Civilization type moments or Command and Conquer type moments in the last kind of 10, 15 years. But it's really hard to judge because we've seen so many games and we've been exposed to so many different gameplay types. Younger people coming into the industry now may still be having those moments of, wow, this is completely new to me. So I think it's difficult for us to judge that because I think it's the same with every generation with things like music, films. The older generation always thinks that there's no new good stuff coming out, no originality, and then the next generation coming through thinks that their generation is the most original. So I don't know, time will tell, I guess.
Maybe, but still, modern music is shitty, right? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. You've got like, one of the things I always admire of especially on seeing you work, is that you're able to see the potential of a game, even if a game is just like blocks and awful graphics, and you're really able to see the loop and appreciate it. Is it your designer? Is it like a natural inclination? Was it?
I think it's a mixture. I think it's it's a natural skill, whatever you want to call it. Not useful in many ways, but is useful in gaming. And it's just an exposure to so many different games. I've been playing so many games since such a young age. I'm so used to looking at different mechanics. The only downside is that up until I started working in games, I really, really enjoyed games just for the experience. And once you start working in games, you find yourself always analysing them. So every time I play a game now, I'm looking at the mechanics, looking at the systems, breaking it down into components, what ideas could be used or borrow, and all that kind of thing. So it's not as enjoyable as a hobby anymore, but it's still fun as a job. It's just, it's changed. And I particularly like elegant gameplay mechanics. I don't like really complex games where there's lots of special rules and special things. I like it where there's a nice system where you get elegant, deep gameplay from the kind of the core design system, and that's really hard to do.
Can you name games with that sort of fascinating for you, or?
That you should have warned me about this.
You can think about it a bit.
I mean, things like Civilization, whilst it is a complex game, at its heart, it has a city mechanic where you place a city on a terrain tile, and that city harvests the terrain around it with the population units, and there's this balance of how many tiles you can manage versus the population, keeping it happy, and then adding the military things on top of it. It starts with a really elegant central loop, and it just layered things on top of it.
That's cool. I think that almost like, I guess, design-wise, that's good advice. But then you've got like start a business parts of the equation coming to play, and then people are like, ooh, we should be adding this, and it's games are about content these days and less about the core, is it? Or
I'm not sure. I think that people are looking for an interesting experience, and it doesn't have to be huge. It has to be a really good, tight gameplay loop. And if they like it, they want to be able to play it for a long time. So you populate it with content, or you make it replayable in ways, so procedural content or replay value, those kind of things. So when people are buying games, they want to think that they could be playing this game for the next 10, 15 years. The reality is, if you look at the stats, most people will play a game for 20, 30 hours and move on to the next one. But they won't buy it unless they feel like they could be playing it for hundreds and hundreds of hours. So I think there's still that tight gameplay loop, I think, is still really important, but there's a lot more expectation on user interface and graphics these days as well. Things we could have kind of got away with in the past, where we didn't put as much effort into those things. The audience is now much more discerning, and expectations are much higher than they used to be.
There's one thing, back when, maybe 10, 15 years ago, if you didn't have, for instance, multiplayer in your game, nobody would play multiplayer. But if you didn't have a multiplayer in a game, press would kill you and customers would kill you.
I remember because of the times we had, because back in the day when you're doing retail, on the back of the box, you needed to have that multiplayer box, like that checkbox. And in the games, we had to shoehorn multiplayer into, knowing that no one was going to use it. And we actually tracked the stats on one of them. I think it was at Great Battles Medieval. I think we looked at the stats, and something like 10 people had played it multiplayer. But we had spent months and months and masses of money and time getting that feature in, because we needed it, because the retail and the publishers wanted it so that they could sell it to people.
Do you think there are elements like that today that are, you need to have that? Nobody wants it, but it's like, I'm thinking about, like, for instance, look at the Steam Deck, figures, very few people play Steam Deck, but you really have your Steam Deck compatibility, or like back in the days it was like, do you have a Mac version? No, we don't. It's very hard to make. So
I think it really, for me, the thing that I see in common is people want to think they can play this game forever. So I was saying before, they don't actually play it for that long, but they want to think that they could if they wanted to.
All right.
That's the thing I find in common. People want replay value. They want to feel like this game is supported. They won't buy a game, no matter how good it is. They rarely buy a game if it's not being supported, and they think that the title is dead. So it's strange how much people care about that.
Right, Ian. To finish this interview, I have five quick fire questions.
Uh-oh.
You're having, well, you can't think about it, right? So just go for it. It's not embarrassing, but you'll be.
Remember, you got me up at 4:30 this morning.
That's
and I forgot my glasses, so I had to ring the doorbell and wake Louisa up, so she was not impressed.
Alrighty. So, ready?
Ready.
One thing you love about the gaming industry?
The people.
Favorite strategy game to play on the go?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I don't really play strategy games on the go.
Right.
I only really enjoy them if I'm at a PC, and if it was that, it would be Civilization.
Squares or hexes?
Hexes. What kind of question is that?
Well, ask Richard Bolly Scott. One thing you hate about the gaming industry?
Toxic communities.
Why are turn-based games better than RTSs?
I used to really love RTSs because my reactions were better. Now, if I play an RTS, I get slaughtered. So for now, turn-based games give you that time to think.
Ian, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you later on some cold or something. Who knows? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marco.
So I said at the start that we were going to have a little corner of the show about tabletop. I think of it as an integral part of our job. Most of the times we have connections with tabletop. We go to a lot of tabletop shows. The guy who is helping us run the tabletop corner is a good friend of ours. Is of course he's part of the team, but he's also part of our larger family of wargamers. It's Paolo Paglianti, and so this segment is really about the niche of the hobby, but take care of it because it's going to be interesting. A lot of advice is there.
So let's talk about Bolt Action. Bolt Action is a game from Warlord Games that allows you to do battles from World War II in 28 millimeters, so tall like the Warhammer kind of miniatures with these amazing tanks. And last year Warlords released the new version of the rules, that is the third edition. And with the book has anything you need to play with any explanation about the mechanics of the game and the main list for the biggest armies of the period, so the German one, the Italian, the Japanese, the US and British and so on. After that, Warlords Games began to release army books like this one. We already have the physical one for the US and the Germany, and they get much more in deep in the army list, so there is much more flavor inside with specific units. Now we have received the preview of the new British book with all the armies of the Commonwealth of World War II from the early war to the finish. Now we can see some page. We will have the same troops that we have in the book, but with much more expansion and flavor. So we can for example, have the Canadians, or we can have special kind of tanks and so on. And this is a very good news because I just finished to paint my first of all time bolt action army, that is obviously my Canadians. Every time I try a new game I start with the British army, so you can see, and the book will be available at the end of July, so basically in a few days, and you saw it first here. Speaking of news, we can't miss talking about Games Workshop news, because this month we have finally seen not only the Space Wolves new miniatures, but also the Katai for Warhammer Fantasy. Space Wolves are one of the oldest chapters in the Warhammer 40,000 lore, and Games Workshop has announced at the beginning of this year at Adepticon relaunch the entire range. So now we have a full new catalog of miniatures that you can buy and paint, dedicated to this fascinating chapter dedicated to the close combat and killing in every way the enemies of the Empire. Games Workshop also released the first screenshots and miniatures of the Katai War. This is something that dates back to the early 90s when I began to play tabletop strategy games and Warhammer Fantasy. The Katai, inspired by the Far East and Chinese mythology and lore, this new army is for the old world setting and allows you to play a whole new army that has a unique flavor and fascination. Finally, let's speak about 3D printing. Our Spanish friends from 3D Breeds sent us a sneak preview of the new range for the Dark Ages. They're going to launch the Kickstarter in the next weeks. And basically this range will cover Normans and Vikings. And you can see the test we printed this very night at home. This is a standard bearer, and from the Norman range, and this one from the Viking. You can see the detail of the armor, of the helm and the flag. And basically the miniatures, as always, will come to the scale of 28mm, the same Warhammer and bolt action range, and also 15 millimeters if you play with tiny armies. 3D Breeds already convinced us in the last years, because they did fantastic ranges both in World War II, Ancient War, and for the medieval one. So we know that they are very good in doing not only the quality of the miniatures, but the range and the poses. So you will have a lot of miniatures that you can print at home. The Kickstarter, as said, will be launched in the very next days, and on the first day there will be a special sale. So if you are interested in 3D printing, give it a look. And now for the feature game, let's talk about Kill Team, the squad-based Warhammer 40,000 game. I love this game. I began to play it a couple of years ago. I collected around more than a dozen teams, and I think that a lot of people approach this Kill Team thinking that it's Warhammer 40,000 on vanilla, simplified. Instead, it's a very deep game where you have to conquer objectives and have a plan, and play thinking about what the other player can do. It's also a game that you can play relatively easy, because the basic box contains everything you need with the rules, the army books for the two factions inside each boxes, and all the terrain details, terrain vehicles and buildings that you can just assemble and play. Obviously I painted because I love to paint miniatures, but you can play even with basic plastic models. Here we have a deadly confrontation between the usual Ultramarines, the Space Marine of the Imperium, and the Navy Breach Infantry, that is a team specific for Kill Team, that is from the troops that usually boards the wreck that are in the space to see what is inside the lost ships. They should be alive, but for some reason that we don't know, they are fighting to the last man a battle. And a battle of Kill Team usually is about 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, when you know the rules. The rules are very simple, but at the same time they have a very good solution for one of the biggest weaknesses of any skirmishes I have seen so far. I'm speaking of the visual line, the line that each miniature can see. Basically, I'm not going too much in details, but it depends if miniatures can be seen and how far is from an obstacle. So every time you will know who you can shoot at or if somebody can shoot at you. Basically, in the game you have to play 4 turns, so it's very quick. Under 1 hour and a half. Usually with my friends, once you know the rules, you can play even in 1 hour. And instead of moving all your army like you do in Warhammer or in other rule set, as you usually do in this kind of games, you play 1 miniature per time. So the one player will play 1 single unit, a single soldier, and the other one will respond with something else. So it's something very chess-like, where you have to think which one to move and where to shoot and what to do. Basically, there are a lot of faction, and the last one that Games Workshop published is the fabled Tyrannids. That is something that we'll buy very soon. And basically, this team doesn't walk; they just go behind the floor and appear behind your line. So it's very, very powerful and unique style of play. I think that one of the strong points of this game is that each team has a different flavor, different kind of weapons and so on. But at the same time, it's very simple because you don't have to create the list when you buy the box or the single boxes for the teams that are even closer and cheaper. You have all the units you need and the list is already made. Also, Games Workshop is very, updating the game every time. So every quarter they publish an FAQ with updated lists. So even if in the case some of the teams are unbalanced or too strong or too weak, after a couple of weeks you will see some changes. But the good thing is that you don't have to create the list as it happens usually in Warhammer or Warhammer Fantasy Battles and so, where you have to do the list with the points and so. Basically, each team has the list already available. You can just put it out from the box and play it. You just choose the equipment for your team, so you can choose, for example, grenades or smoke or barrage or something like that. Okay, this episode is finished, so now it's time to say goodbye and see you again at the end of August for the second episode of Tabletop Corner in the next The Hot Seat episode. Again, we hope that we have sparked your interest in these games and the news we have spoken of, and see you next month. And if you have any advice about news or games that you want to see here, just send an email and we will do our best. See you!
Welcome back to the Hot Seat, and my second guest today is 11-Bits game director of Frostpunk 2, Jakub Stokalski. Hello. Welcome, Jakub. Welcome, Kuba. Everything good?
Yes, very good, very good. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Well, thank you for opening our new show. It's great to have you here, and I wish this interview could last a couple of hours, but we'll...
Well, don't test me, you might get what you want.
We'll try and stay within the time, but go relaxed through all the questions, because there's a lot to talk about, Kuba. I'd like to start from the weird part of your life, I guess. So Iain was saying before, I have a degree in environmental science, and I ended up doing strategy games. You've got a degree in applied psychology. And
that is correct.
So what went wrong?
Searching for meaning in life, and no, but it is a bit of a history to that, because I when I was growing up in high school and in university, I was notoriously unable to focus on just one specific thing. I got interested by many different things, from mathematics to psychology to philosophy in high school and areas like that. So going into university, I had to pick something. So I tried to pick something that is as interdisciplinary as possible, and that was the strange direction on one of Warsaw's universities that was focusing on human-computer interaction in general, right? That was not a very popular degree in Poland back then. It was a psychology major, but what I did during these studies, I was focusing on psychology as applied to interaction with computers, designing interfaces, so a bit of closer to programming a bit as well. And that was, me trying to find my way into all of these different things that interest me.
All right, yeah, that's interesting, because then you sort of almost transitioned through, you're saying UX, right? UX design.
Yes.
Which is kind of, a nice, easy transition. It explains the path to game design.
Yes, because I was playing games since I remember. Like my father was in the 90s. He was setting up in a very burgeoning stage of IT business in Poland. He was setting up one of the companies, IT companies. He was bringing these huge computers back home, and he let me play, and Prince of Persia. TIE Fighter, so these were the games that the really worlds I immersed myself in from the very early, so I played a lot, and in the meantime I was trying to find my way in education, and it turns out you can design interfaces for games as well. So that's why on my third year I started trying to find some work, some internships, and I started by designing interfaces in games.
The role you have had in the in evolution of Frostpunk, going to the more specific subject of your recent work, is you've transitioned from being on Frostpunk 1, you were designer or
lead designer, yes,
to being a game director on Frostpunk 2. So is it correct to say that you were almost you transitioned to owning the project, and on the second, or was it?
That is, yes, that's very much true. For Frostpunk 1, the project leads back then was Michał Drozdowski and Przemek Marszał, the co-founders of 11-Bit Studios, and I was lead designer from the very, very beginning of the project. I joined as soon as Frostpunk became Frostpunk, really. But I was very much co-authoring it, right? And as the project wrapped, the idea was that for the company to grow and to try different things internally was for myself and my colleagues to take full ownership of what was Frostpunk 1, its console versions, some of the bigger DLCs, and now coming into the sequel, which was not a given that a sequel would come to be, right? It was I guess part of the identity of our company as we try to do stuff if it makes sense, and if it makes sense, if we can find an idea to convey. So yes, that was our road to Frostpunk 2.
The thing is that Frostpunk 2 is it's a sequel, but it's not really a sequel. Right?
Not really.
It's there's a lot of risk-taking exercise that you've applied to that game, and how did that happen? This is interesting because you come from a game that's very successful. The first thing you want to do is, I'm going to do the same thing but bigger, right?
Yes.
But you didn't do that.
Yes. No, we didn't do that. I think this reasoning, why to approach things the way we do, is rooted even before Frostpunk in a game called This War of Mine. You and the viewers might have heard about that little game, and it was a peculiar one because all of this risk-taking, creative risk-taking, really started there. It was not, and no one really had an idea of how well a game designed around conveying survival gameplay, but through a lens of civilians in a besieged city, how well would that go? But that obviously the game did very well for us, for 11-Bit Studios, and it was kind of this watershed moment where it redefined the whole thinking behind the company, behind why we do the projects that we do, and this element of trying to do something fresh and trying to do something creatively brave that will stay with the players even after they are done playing is at the heart of all the projects that we are doing at the company.
See, so how do you tackle the risk-taking part? Almost like Frostpunk 1 finishes, it's you win against the environment,
yes,
right? And then what happens next?
Yes, exactly. So that was, we always wanted Frostpunk to be this a world that could house many different things, games and not only games included, right? But the trick is exactly as you said. When you take a look at what Frostpunk is, it's a very specific experience, a well put together strategy game that is this engine building gameplay against the increasing pressure of the falling temperatures. And then, you know, it climaxes in this moment where you survive the end of the world. Like you survive the minus 150 degrees great storm, and this is where the game tells you, well, congratulations, you managed to survive. But you know, where do you go from there, really? If we wanted to just do a classic sequel, as you say, so let's more of the same, make it a bit better, add more buildings, and ship it. Then what do? We do the even bigger storm, even lower temperatures. You know, minus 150 is already pushing it a bit. So, so this was not our thinking, right? We wanted to leave Frostpunk 1 for what it is, and it's a great game. But say, okay, so this was part 1 of the story. How can we continue this world? How can we build on it in a unique way that will be still very much has the DNA of this world, but will tell the next sentence in this story, right? So if you survive the end of the world, the natural question becomes like, what comes next? How do we rebuild, and what drives us to rebuild us, and what is the big enemy then? If it's not nature, well, it's human nature, right? And this was the very beginning and the idea behind Frostpunk 2.
So and I wish I was a fly in one of these meetings where you just like decide that you want to piss off your customers, you know, by defeating all their expectations and saying, okay, let's do something completely or sort of different and as different as we can, so that, you know, they are like very surprised. And it's not only risk taking; it's like, you know, it's business level risk taking, right? So that's right. Yes, there's an evolution, and you know, you're explaining it in the right way, but you know, what's the
on the field, right? Well, we were fortunate in that we had this idea of doing something bold was rooted throughout the company. It was not, I mean, obviously myself and Łukasz Juszczyk was the game co-director. We wanted to do something ambitious because we wanted to, you know, if they give us, we wanted to do something great with it. But this idea of being bold was very much present with the board members throughout the company, right? This is really ingrained in who we are. But you are right in the sense that ultimately we are a business. We live by selling these games, and contrary to popular opinion, we do not want to anger our players. We actually want to bring them fresh experiences that will be valuable to them, right? And I guess this is why we do it, in the sense that there is nothing wrong, obviously, with this model of saying it worked, let's do more of the same. But even business-wise, if you look at it, you end up. I don't remember who summarized this, but it was shortly after the release of Frostpunk 2 that if you do the classic sequel route, you end up competing with your own games, right? You end up competing with yourself, and by having Frostpunk 1 as it is and Frostpunk 2 the way it is, we not only keep selling Frostpunk 1, Frostpunk 2 sold also well, but it also broadened what the IP itself and what the world itself is, right? And, you know, spoiler alert, we're not done yet, right? We've got Frostpunk 1886 lined up, which is going to bring this more classic Frostpunk 1 vibe extended for the future, which we couldn't do on our past engine. And, you know, who knows what else the future will bring. So
who knows? Well, you probably know.
Well, I might.
you might know something about it. And there's the sort of component of testing and testing reactions and players and such. Do you actually rely on data? On how do you test the ideas with your user base?
Well, the very first test is the gut check of the decision makers at the company, right? And this is not scientific or data driven in the classic sense, but it is important in the sense that the project gets greenlit when we collectively feel we have this idea of what can make it great. But after that, we obviously put our heads down and start building the game, and it takes years and years. And at some point where we feel that it's not so early that it's all gray boxes and, you know, like we can see what the game is, but if we brought someone else from the outside, like what the hell is this, right? So at some point, unfortunately with strategy games, I think this is quite late in the production process because of how many moving pieces you need to have working together to approximate the ultimate experience. But at that time, we do a lot of player testing, right? We try to keep it relatively small because we try to get our data qualitatively, right? We like to interview our players, talk to them, see their reactions, like see what they like, what they didn't like, in like this human reception, not purely on numerical data, which we gather as well, by the way. But we do that repeatedly as soon as we have a game that we feel is representative of ultimately what the game is going to be, and we do that and repeat it every milestone to see whether we are on track.
You said before this is a part of the company's mission, right? To create these games with sort of a twist in terms of, you said earlier to me something that remains in people's minds,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And you've just released The Alters, which is another game that, definitely, remains in people's minds. There's one thing that is very clear. It's a very risky type way of doing business. Is it kind of the process here? I can see this in Hollywood as well, where they're trying to sort of put more of these angles, like psychological angles, in movies, like the recent Thunderbolts and so on. So even big blockbusters, but with a twist and such. So, what's the process there? Understanding how that works. Is it something you test first? Is it something that comes out of building it together? Is it? Was it?
Well, we like to think of ourselves as being idea driven, right? So I can speak for myself, right? There's all of this background that I have, for instance, in psychology and adjacent fields. I feel that it gives me a lot of background. I try not to use this knowledge explicitly in decision making of how to, let's say, make something more addictive, right? There is an ample body of knowledge in psychology on how to design human behavior and mechanics so that they become addictive, and this is how you get dark patterns in UX, right? You get apps that just stimulate your brain in a way that you feel obliged to actually interact with it. But I not only do I think that it's not really ethical, I don't ultimately feel this is very good for the business in the sense that it's not. It's optimizing for the wrong thing. We are in the entertainment business where we entertain our players with unique, fresh experiences. And there is no way to, I believe, you need to have a lot of background, and it's good to have a lot of knowledge data to feed into your creative process. But then what happens in the moment where you decide what to and how to make it, this is this magic moment that there is no measure for, really. It happens internally, and it's this creativity is not measured for a reason, right? In these contexts.
11-bit is a big company, I guess, but is there any sharing of other teams sharing their stuff and getting more ideas from do you have any input on the Alters or other games, or what's the process there? Part of
the getting feedback, playtest feedback on the game as we are building it is like these very early stages. We can actually test the game internally in the company earlier than we do with the players, because for the players it's difficult to explain what a gray box is, right? But for a developer, everyone knows what if something is a gray box, and there's probably something prettier going to be here somewhere down the line. So we actually do test internally before we test outside, and this is a similar setup in the sense that we tell little and gather feedback, gather surveys, gather data, and talk with each other, right, to see the reception. So there is this type of feedback, and obviously all of the informal communication that happens in the company, knowledge sharing and idea sharing as well. But I would say that we are, as a company, quite protective of the fact that if there is a game team focused around a specific game, it's their game to make, right? They take a lot of feedback, but it's not like a committee that designs solutions for them, right?
Of course, Kuba, last year in December, Frostpunk 2, amongst other big awards, got the Game Award in Los Angeles. I guess it's a big moment for anyone working in the industry. Can you tell us, how does it work? I mean, you you know you're nominated, right? So
Yes.
you just jump on a plane and you fight for who's going and stuff like that, is it?
Well, unfortunately, Poland is quite far away from LA, right? So we cannot go. We not everyone can go, unfortunately, and not least because the theater is only having so many places, right? But myself and Łukasz, as the game directors, ultimately vision holders, right, for the game, we do tend to go to these types of events, and then other people support us in that. But apart from the fact that we know we are nominated, we don't know anything else, right? You go in blind, you hope for the best, and the show itself makes a huge impression. I was actually fortunate enough to be there also in 2018 because Frostpunk 1 was also nominated in the strategy category, didn't win then, and it was a huge show. But fast forward to 24. It's really a huge event, right? And making games is hard, right? It's like a lot of hard work, but coming to events like this, you really feel the energy in the air, and it's wise not to get hung up on awards because it's ultimately the players are the judges here, right? But having this moment when you hear Geoff Keighley, right, say Frostpunk 2 was really a magic moment because of the fact that not only is it that all of those years of and risk taking, as you say, right, pays off in that way too, is really rewarding, especially for a creative, idea-driven developers as we think of ourselves.
And then you get drunk and have a party.
Obligatorily.
Let's see. You were happy. You were very happy.
Yes.
Kuba, because before I leave you, thank you for joining us. I have a set of 5 quick-fire questions for you. Ready?
Let's see.
Let's see what happens. Ready? Yeah. One thing you love about the gaming industry?
The people.
The people. If HBO picked up the rights to produce a Frostpunk show, who would you cast as the city leader?
Oh my God.
Hard one.
Oh my God. I don't know.
Favorite game to play on the go?
Polytopia.
Last time you had a great game design idea and did it make it into a game?
No, they never do. 1% of them do make it into a game.
One thing you hate about the gaming industry?
How long it takes to make games.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It was good to have you, and all the best for the future projects.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, I promised you, welcome back to the hot seat. I promised you a segment of the show where we sort of suggest games, but we're not going to do it. We have a guest for that, and that's 2D Kiri from Austria. Hello, Kiri.
Hi, Marco. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for riding your big following to us over the start.
No worries.
And what were you playing when you started?
Today, you mean?
Wait, just today. What were you playing?
Yeah, I was playing RimWorld actually.
Oh right, okay. So, Kiri, you've been creating content on strategy games for quite some time now, right?
Yes, 7.5 years now.
Wow, that's a lot. So you've got a lot of experience, but also a lot of stuff you really like and you come back to. How much of your time is split between new things and going back to stuff that you know and you like?
So I do this full time, and I've kind of built this channel around showing off new games. So it's, I'd say 90% new stuff.
Wow, okay.
That could be early access releases, full releases. And then occasionally I go back to something once it wasn't early access before, but now version 1 is out, or there's a big new update for something that is just hyped, or a DLC. But mainly it's new things, yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool. And it's also, you're also the right person to lead us through this segment, as in we are going to have you for a few episodes to give some advice to our viewers.
Yeah.
Some stuff they might know, some stuff they might not know. So let's start off. What's the first game of the month?
Yeah, so I brought Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. That is actually a game that I go back to every now and then. I've not finished it yet, but a new DLC released, and that got me back to it. But it's been so long since I played, so I had to start over. And so I just start over when there's new stuff happening. One day I'll finish it, but it's a classical RPG. It has turn-based combat, which I like a lot. Because when I'm streaming and I talk to chat, RTS games are fun, but they are so stressful because I can't just pause usually. And so turn-based combat is perfect for that. So I can, pause, talk to chat, keep on playing. Yeah, I love the Warhammer 40k universe, and there's so much to learn. It's really amazing to dive into that.
Do viewers give you advice on how to play, or do you follow your instinct and on your brain? Is it more like, is it a collaborative effort?
That really depends on the situation. So it's not like they tell me exactly, go over there, talk to this person, that kind of thing. I don't want that. But if there's a dialogue, and that happens in Rogue Trader, I ask my viewers, what are we going to do now? So I usually play bad or dark playthroughs and take the dark choices that other people maybe don't take. But it's always fun to do that as well, because a lot of viewers don't want to do that themselves, and they push the streamer to, I don't know, kill that guy, even you don't have to.
Yeah.
So it's a collaborative story that we make, but they don't really tell me what to do.
That's great. Rogue Trader, of course, big friends of our Warhammer 40k, friends that over at Games Workshop. Great game that's really a mix of RPG and turn-based combat, which is, again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, it's borderline strategy as a core, but it does have a lot of strategic elements which are, adding a lot of value to the game.
Exactly, yeah.
Second one?
Yeah, RimWorld. So I was playing that earlier before I raided into the channel here. And that's a game I've gone back to. It's a sci-fi colony sim and a storytelling game. So there is a storyteller that you pick. Usually people go with Randy Random, and then just stuff happens randomly. So you try to build a colony with a couple people you have, get more people, expand, and the game tries to kill you with attacks, with diseases, with I don't know what. And it's really fun to do that, to just strive to survive. That's also one of the difficulties. And a new DLC came out, and it's called Odyssey, and it changes the gameplay drastically because you have a spaceship. And you're hunted by mechanoids. You can't stay on one location for a long time because the mechanoids will know where you are and come to attack you. So you have this nomadic lifestyle with the base being your ship, and you just go somewhere else. And then you gather all the resources, and you keep moving on to find the right resources that you need to expand the ship. But also you can now go into orbit and land on an asteroid and mine that. So land on a platform and raid people in space. And so that is really cool.
I think, RimWorld is, again, another very good example of, a game that mixes a lot of genre and manages to do that very, very, very well. The next one you bring in, Kiri, I'm particularly attached to, and it's a game that's in early access, so I'll let you start.
Yeah, so it's Nightmare Frontier, and that is a game that a lot of people may not know, so I'm very happy to introduce that to you. It's an early access game. It's by Ice Code Games, and it's a tactical extraction looter. So it's a top-down game, turn-based tactical combat that has really good elements. There's a fear and nightmare mechanic. So you go into a run, because it's run-based, you're going to run with 3 characters. Eventually, you can unlock a 4th spot. You have a map similar to Slay the Spire, where you can decide, okay, this is the path, I'm going to go here, there's a battle there, you know that. The next thing is going to be a rest, you can heal there, for example. And your people have fears. So there are some that have arachnophobia, so they're afraid of spiders, some are afraid of fires, and that influences what enemies spawn. So if there's somebody who's afraid of fire, then there will be enemies who can use fire attacks. Or if the nightmare level increases, because some of the enemies have attacks that can increase that, then fires will spawn. So you'll have those effects as well. The combat area is rather small, so you have to be very tactical during your fights, and also you can use obstacles. Like you could push enemy into crates and then they take damage. And there's a really cool mechanic of if you deal a killing blow, that character can then attack again. So you want to position yourself in a way that you can just reach a lot of enemies. But also be careful, because if you overdo it and you're too greedy, that's it. But basically what you want to do is you want to fight those battles, gather the loot. And the loot can be materials to upgrade your equipment. It can be equipment. It can be something like dynamite, the secondary weapon, kind of like an offhand item that they can use during battle. And then you need to make it to an extraction point. So don't go too far, basically. Make sure that you leave as well, because you want those materials, those weapons, upgrades, all of that to come back to the map, really. There's several districts then. And use that. Improve your characters, and also find more characters, because they all have different classes and different playstyles.
So this is an early
I talked a lot now, yeah. So
no, that's great, and I think that the guys, it's interesting. This game is also developed by a Polish development studio, Ice Code. So this is National Day for Polish strategy games, but it's a very interesting. This studio has done Hard West. They've done pretty big games. They're self-publishing, so I'm happy we're talking about it. They're in early access now. Do you have an idea of the current expectation for new content coming out? Did I have that on the website?
Yeah, exactly. There's a roadmap that I found on the Steam page, so everybody can look that up.
You sent it to Miki, yeah. Miki, thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So there's a roadmap. They're going to add more mechanics, more enemies, upgrade the UI. So they are definitely planning a lot. So for each quarter, new content, achievements, and I personally like achievements, so it's going to be awesome. Yeah, there's a story as well. I don't know how far the story goes right now, but there's a reason for playing this.
No, absolutely, and it's also a sort of an interesting take on different mechanics that you might want to be used to, but this game adds a little bit of depth to. I guess the idea of having very specific characters, they don't have like only characteristic for fighting, but they have their fears, so they have like their very negative points too. Is interesting, You have to pick the right characters to do very specific things. That's the depth, really. That's really cool. Kiri, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be waiting for next month's list as well. Eagerly waiting for that. So we'll see you in a month's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. Goodbye.
All right. So can we have one of these things? Wonderful. I just like, I'll do it again. Changed color too, so that's great. I don't know if I can pick a color, but I'll make sure I'll do it next time. To wrap it up for today, a few very quick news for our side of the world. So Slitherine news. I guess you guys have seen that Broken Arrow release, so I won't be doing much, talking about that. Just before us, we had a live stream of RuneQuest. First look. This live stream is going to be available on YouTube very soon, so if you want to look at that, there's a whole mission played. The game is releasing this year. You go and wishlist it and make sure you show some love to this fantastic game. That is the first game we develop outside of Battle Sector with the Battle Sector engine, with the folks at Volmi, and I'm really proud of this this game, because it's kind of easy sometimes. You say, okay, right, take an engine, turn it into something else, but this is really adding so much depth to melee combat, so much RPG elements and so on. So it's really a completely different experience. You're gonna love it. At our recent Slitherine Next event, we have also announced a new game releasing next year called Battle Plan. Battle Plan is more of a going back to the Slitherine comfort zone of World War II strategy games, but with a twist. It's a real-time game where you sort of have to interact a lot with a map of in this case the later part of World War II, and you're almost directly giving orders within a map. Imagine this, and this is how I'm positioning it. And because we are in an open environment where we can name other people's games, imagine this as the battle layer of Hearts of Iron. That is the game, and this is really what the guys at development are trying to achieve with this game. So Battle Plan has been announced. Again, go wishlist it, and we are releasing this next year. Next big event for us is on September the 25th on Home of Wargamers, our celebration of hardcore war games, what we call our Matrix games, I guess. So anything from Command to War in East to and everything in between. You'll see a lot of updates on surprise releases, lots of very cool things happening, and a celebration for the 25 years of Matrix games as well. 25 years for both Slitherine and Matrix games this year. And next time we're going to see a hot seat episode is going to be August the 27th. This is going to be always happening, except for this one, always happening on the last Wednesday of August from now until, forever, I guess, if you like the format, and if we are able to deliver it in this format in the future. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I think first episode, lots of things to fix and things, but the guys have been amazing. Thank you, Mickey, for running this smooth as silk. I will hopefully see you at the end of August, and goodbye.